hospitals, but what is known in Calcutta as the Rabindranath Tagore International Institute of Cardiac Sciences. As I've said before, Dr. Deb has been a very intimate and close colleague of Dr. Devi Prasad Shetty, on whose leadership qualities you will be deliberating shortly. And he has worked very, very closely and continues to work very closely. And at the end of this presentation, he will make a presentation on the foundation he has set up in a remote village, in a remote district of this state, which is topping the charts in terms of interventions of this network of hospitals, not just here, but in terms of an all-India, pan-India initiative. So it's his dream, his vision, in which Dr. Shetty has also lent his help, his collaboration, and he'll talk more about that. I've had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Deb for, I guess, a decade and a half, something like that, very, very closely. I admire his leadership, his vision, his compassion. He could very well have been a great doctor in Ireland, where he spent a lot of time, elsewhere in India, in Brunei, in Singapore, the world-renowned, acclaimed doctor. But again, he's a person who has a calling, and he chose to spend time not just in the city hospital, but go out and branch out into the villages to create something that the government ideally should have done. I think this is a point we've been touching on for quite some time now. India is one of those unique countries where, even today there is a report on human development in the newspaper. I don't know how many of you have seen it. We've ranked 158th in the world in terms of tackling human potential. Just a few notches higher in the last 25 years. Which shows the apathy of the government, of the powers that rule, irrespective of political affiliations, not just the powers that rule, I'm just not talking the government, the judiciary, everything put together, in tapping that fundamental resource that forms the backbone of every nation, education and public health. Nevertheless, many other countries might have just folded up or given up. But there are evangelical people, and Dr. Shetty is one of them, Dr. Deb is another, who thought that this huge burden probably could be shared between the government and their initiatives, and they've not waited. They've neither waited for government funds, nor push, nor encouragement. So, a structure that is probably going to revolutionize Indian healthcare for many, many years to come. So again, Dr.Binayak Deb. But today, of course, the stars of the show are here. So you have the privilege of talking about a hospital that Dr. Deb knows inside out and outside in. So I hope that there will be a great degree of interaction, because you will present it from the point of view of a case study, a very acclaimed case study, something that's written about, researched worldwide, but he can give you an insider perspective, which is very rare. That is very rare when you have somebody who knows something inside out and outside in. That's very rare. So what I'll suggest is you make the presentation, and then let's have a discussion. Dr. Deb will, I presume, ask you some probing questions. Don't get scared. He knows that you don't belong to that hospital. And basically, let there be an exchange in which all of us should be involved. And then, taking off from there, Dr. Deb will present the work of the foundation. And after that, there should be another round of discussions, rounding up to the central issue of leadership in NGOs. What constitutes that leadership? How is it similar, different from other kinds of leadership that we are talking about? Not theoretically, but more in a practical sense. So that's the aim, and at the end, my request is to you and to our other friends who have decided to volunteer for the camp in Moynapur to have a word, end of the class, to him. I believe your tickets are already bought. Just some last-minute logistical things to be organized. Okay? All right. Thank you. May I ask the group to come forward, please? And to introduce yourself. It's on freeze mode, you just have to unfreeze.
No, freeze, unfreeze, already unfrozen.
Already unfrozen. So would you mind just introducing yourselves as you start, so that we have a...
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vincent. So we did talk about the Narayana to the Yara NH hospital, cardiac care for poor. But first, to give you a bit of context, what the case is about.
Now, can we know the others' names also?
Yeah.
So I'm Kenny.
Okay, come.
I'm Venkatesh.
Akshay.
Nazir.
Abhinav. Jack.
I'm Sanjeev.
So, a bit of context, so the case was originally written in 2005 and looks at the early 2000s. So back then there were some problems in the Indian healthcare landscape. There were high rates of heart diseases, but the governmental hospitals were rather low quality, so you kind of had to go to a private hospital to get proper treatment, which were very expensive. Only less than 14% of the population back then were supported with health insurance. So basically only people that could afford it, were rich enough, or somehow were able to get proper treatment, which resulted in only, of the 2.4 million heart surgeries that were required each year back then, only 60,000 were performed. So in 2001, Dr. Devi Prasad Shetty founded the hospital in Bangalore, and the main goal was to provide affordable healthcare, high quality to the masses. By 2004, which is like the last point where in time which the case looks at, they had one of the biggest pediatric intensive care units in the world, with over 11,000 heart surgeries performed in those few years. They were able to offer open heart surgeries at less than half the national average cost in private hospitals. And they also implement additional services such as telemedicine and mobile cardiac diagnostic labs, their own insurance program to further increase their outreach. So what we'll do now is quickly go through the timeline of what Dr. Shetty did before founding the hospital and also how the hospital developed in the 2 years. And then look at different aspects of his leadership style and compare his leadership style to some of the leadership style we saw in IIM-C hosted by President in this class.
So yeah, as we look into leadership of Dr. Shetty, it's important that we go through his journey. So he studied medicine in Bangalore in India, and then had gone to London and had practiced in London for 6 years. And what's important here is to understand that he again had a calling. And he came back to India. He had a good life there, but he chose to come back to India to serve the poor. So that he did in 1989. He returned to India and joined the Birla Heart Research Foundation in Calcutta. During the same period, he also founded the Asia Heart Foundation (AHF), and which in turn commissioned Birla Heart Research Institute as well as Rabindranath Tagore Institute of Calcutta, Cardiac Sciences in Calcutta. For 5 or so years, he was the personal cardiac surgeon of Father Teresa, probably the source of inspiration. And in 1997, he also commissioned Moynapur Heart Foundation of Bangalore. 2001, as he mentioned before, 2001 is when he founded the hospital in Bangalore and started telemedicine with 29 cardiac care units to spread medicine to remote parts of Karnataka. Then in 2002, he started the Yashaswini Health Insurance Scheme for 1.7 million farmers. Moving on, in 2004, RTI, Rabindranath Tagore Institute, became the largest heart hospital in eastern Calcutta, and expansion of Narayana completed to 500-bed facility. And he also diversified himself to a neurosurgery unit and a bone marrow transplant unit. And in 2005 and ahead, the Narayana Vidyalaya started being called the Health City and started offering diploma in cardiology with IIM-C. Also, Yashaswini reached 2.5 million members, which is a huge milestone. Moving on.
So now let's focus on the commitment principles of Dr. Shetty. So first of all, I want to begin with this quote, so written in the walls of his office. So most of the things worth doing in the world had been declared impossible, but they were done. So this quote will get us a lot of information about him and about the way he connects leadership with through different aspects, so through vision and through passion. So concerning the vision, the first step is how far he was ready to go and to develop its business. Since the beginning, he wanted to improve the hospital and training nurses and other and sustain the growth demand. Another side, he wanted to manage 3 lines of this business. So for the first one, it's about Yashaswini. So Yashaswini is a place, or it's an instrument school, and it's an insurance scheme where a lot of people can receive a lot of help. And on the other side, we can see that Dr. Shetty have taken a lot of opportunities and tried to anticipate the change. So through partnership and cooperative. But we'll see that later. And another one, you can see the passion, who is presented by the side that Dr. Shetty found a specific moment. He met Mother Teresa, as is described as an encounter with a divine. Another side, he tried to adopt this philosophy and he relies on his personality. So he don't care about himself, but he tried to serve the masses. Another one, he tried to struggle against some injustice, so this is the differences between public and private hospital.
So if you see the entrepreneurial acumen and vision, so first of all we look at the Dr.Binayak Deb Institute. So just when he returned to India in 1989, he founded the Asian Heart Foundation in Calcutta. And after that he led to commissioning of B.M. Birla Heart Research Institute and then Moynapur Heart Foundation. So the good thing about or the unique thing about Dr. Shetty is that he sees the opportunity and he scales up really quickly. So if we see that after commissioning these hospitals, the Asian Heart Foundation commissioned its own hospital in Calcutta, the Dr.Binayak Deb Institute of Cardiac Sciences. So it started with 150 beds, 3 OTs, but quickly in I think 7 years, it became the largest hospital in Eastern India. So he really has the knack of lowering the costs and optimizing operations. And after that, when he founded, as my friend said, that he founded the NS hospital in Bangalore. So, but he didn't stop it there. He had a plan of a health city where not only cardiology but other specialties would also be there. So he plans to offer tertiary care at below average market costs by lowering costs and optimizing the volume of surgery by specialists. So he plans to build 10 self-sufficient hospitals with 1 or 2 specialties each, and they are non-cardiac specialties such as neurosurgery, orthopedic and trauma centers. And he lowered costs by utilizing the existing infrastructure of the hospitals. And actually, one of the examples, he reduced costs by 1/3 for bone marrow transplants, which costed 15 lakhs earlier, but the cost came down to 5 lakhs. Now we see that how he managed to create such a big health city and in such a big sort of time. So we can see 3 distinct things. First one is operations, which was cost leadership. Then he leveraged technology, and then he had some innovative schemes such as Yashaswini, which was an insurance scheme. So how did he lower the costs? So first he utilized lowered unit costs through high capacity utilization and productivity. So the volumes of surgery performed by surgeons at Narayana Health City were 8 times the national average, which led to reduction in unit cost and also led to reduction in the salaries paid to staff. After that, he had short-term supply contracts with vendors so that he didn't get locked in with a high price for the equipment. Then he had a lean administrative team. So what happened before that the various equipment manufacturers they had tie-ups with they had contacts with the administrative team, and because of which they had to give bribes so that they could reach the higher administration team. But he had a very lean administration team, because of which he didn't have to pay bribes. After that, he used technology such as digital exchange instead of putting more money to the conventional X-rays, and he also used generic drugs which were 80% cheaper than drugs which were present in the market. So after that, in leveraging technology, he had an initiative called telemedicine, through which he could reach the rural people also where there wasn't health infrastructure. So he utilized the expertise of Space Agency ISRO, and he also brought SN Informatics, a software company from Bangalore, to develop custom software for them, and because of which there were approximately 10,000 teleconsultations and 4,000 patients at his hospital. So this is a big achievement. And after that, I think if we look at some of the creative schemes, so Yashaswini, actually he had a meeting with one of the milk cooperatives, and there he got the idea that he could utilize such a big number of people who were affiliated with the cooperatives, and then at 5 rupees per month, actually he provided a scheme in which they could get at least 1 lakh rupees of medical cover across the state in 150 hospitals and 29 districts. And to sustain this, he also used government infrastructure such as post office for collecting the monthly payments. So he used a lot of innovation and creativity.
Yeah. So we'll just like to look at how his managerial skills are also adapted in this particular segment. So we've created 3 main buckets which we think are the prime ones on which we can see how well he's gone ahead with his leadership. So the first one is cost optimization, the second one is decentralization, and the last one is communication. So when it comes to cost optimization, as earlier Abhinav has also pointed out, we can see how he talks about Walmartization of the entire hospital industry. Like he's spoken, and it's mentioned in the communication point also, where he's comparing the medical industry and he's comparing the electronic city and Infosys, wherein he highlights that in every other industry the normal trend is that as we move ahead with technology, what also happens is, since there is progress with technology, it also becomes cheaper. But in case of your medical services, that has not been the case. It's actually the other way around. The technology is also increasing, but like it's improving, but at the same time the prices are increasing. So he wants to go ahead with this sort of like standardization of procedure and normalizing and producing such kind of technologies which can easily be passed on to other people as well. And I'll talk about that in detail in decentralization. So just data points actually which bring about the cost optimization while not compromising on the quality are the mortality rate and the infection rates, which are actually very comparable to those of USA. The infection rate is 1% in USA as well, and the mortality rate is 1.2% in USA. So that's very, very close to international standards as such. The generic drugs that Abhinav also earlier spoke about, so Nana Rudralaya has tied up with Biocon, which leads to 80% cheaper drugs. And on these lines, again, we can see his communication strategy, wherein he, for once, describes the medical industry as a cartel. Now, normally when we think of it, we associate cartels with some kind of people who are lobbying, or they're kind of a negative term in our ideology. But when you look at it over here, he speaks about how hospitals and pharmaceutical companies could come together and thereafter produce like better costs. Like if they call for standardized drugs which are 80% cheaper, the consumers themselves will not need to go to other more expensive alternatives. Staff salaries, so in comparison to other Indian hospitals, if we look at it, so we have 60% of the revenues going to staffs and other like administrative purposes, whereas NH over here only has 22% of those revenues going over there. Rate contracts was touched upon by Abhinav, I'm not going to dwell on detail over there. Now, decentralization is a very important aspect because he also wants to reach out to different parts of the society. Now, at present, this operation out of, like the main center was Bangalore, and he wanted to provide a lot more services to the rural areas as well. So what he came up was the idea of telemedicine and a mobile cardiac diagnostic lab. On top of that, when it comes to training the next generation, he has created IGNOU, which is basically an institute which gives a diploma to a general practitioner. So earlier the practice would be that a general practitioner would diagnose some sort of heartache or burn, and he would think that it's caused by acidity and not really give the right treatment. But by providing this diploma, what he has done is he actually enables general practitioners also to look at these these symptoms from a cardiac perspective as well. Telemedicine, he creates these coronary care units wherein just the technical ability to diagnose is there, and if at all some serious issues are found, they can head back to the central NH or RTI. And again, we see how he is embracing technology with every front, and he tries to engage in just moving forward while keeping the cost low.
So if we talk about partnerships, what NH did, initially they collaborated with government initiatives. So in this way it helped them to build a trust with people and also with small hospitals in remote places. Because generally if something is associated with government, it builds a trust between them. So if we talk about the CCOs that were placed in remote places, so ISRO really helped to set up those CCOs free of charge, and also there were images that were sent from those remote places. So with the help of ISRO technology, they used to send this through satellite technology, not through mobile or phone technology. So it was more clearer than before. And in the same line, if we see, there were outreach camps there were for cardiac diagnosis, which were organized by local associations. There were associations like Lion Clubs, which did advertisement for them and helped them setting up those camps. And similarly, as Akshay mentioned, there was IGNOU, Indira Gandhi National Open University, which helped them to have diploma in cardiology, and which gave easy access to cardiac care. And what he believed, Mr. Shetty, was that there were very few cardiologists in India. So if we increase number of cardiologists, so the total cost will also decrease in this operations and related diseases. So also the hospitals that were low utilized in the remote areas, so if we club those hospitals with the initiatives taken by Mr. Shetty, so they will be also benefited from this because they were not fully utilized, and also the people in the rural areas, they will get more benefited because of all these initiatives. And also, as Abhinav mentioned, the Yashaswini scheme, that was basically their insurance scheme. In that, every farmer has to pay only 5 rupees. So the 50% of that is 2.5 rupees, were paid by the government initiatives, and which really helped them to give them more financial background, financial solidity, so that they can help people in rural areas. Also, if we see collaboration with all these government initiatives, they really help the small hospital also, and also the NH hospital. And if we see the cooperative, they have helped in masterminding all these projects for NH. And if we see, Yashaswini was basically a state program, and initially, so clubbing with the government officials and government initiative, it really helped them. Next. So we analyzed one leadership profile, but as you already saw in this class and in your personal life, there is plenty of them. It's not a universal measure. So we try to compare here with 3 leaders that we already met in class. First, Alakananda Roy. So what impressed the people when we met her is really her charisma, her empathy, and her passion. She also has a real creativity, and on another side, sometimes she misses management skills to raise funds, and this is why she asked so much project about this for her association.
Yeah, the other leader that we want to compare Dr. Shetty with is the co-founder of IIM-C, which is Dr.Binayak Deb. The skill that all those people share is passion, for sure, and this is why they do it. But the most amazing thing that we saw in this doctor is that he has a lot of creativity, even if he hasn't got any money or he hasn't got any solutions, he always find a way to create and to go further in his dream. Another thing that we saw is his marketing and partnership skills when he came out with other partnerships, when he bring Japanese to India to finance his thing. But the most amazing thing about him is his charisma, for sure. This is why people always follow him. And the last one that we choose is the co-founder of SwitchCon, Vinay Gayu. Contrary to the others, Vinay Gayu has a lot of management and business skills because he managed to sell to farmers more sustainable way to do agriculture and everything. So he works on innovation, that's why his main point in his project, and he is also passionate.
As a conclusion, we can see that there is one characteristic. This is what is common to all the leaders that we saw today, is the passion. When you lead a project such as this, you have to really be in your project, make your whole life round up around it. And so it's really the point that we see the most who appear the most in each profile.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Dr. Deb will now probably address you with questions.
Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation.
You don't go away.
I'd like to ask Mary Venkatesh, if you want to describe Dr. Shetty maybe in a few words, not in a title, but in a few words, what did you say to take home message? Maybe you can think about it while I ask other people. If anybody could tell about you mentioned about 22% of being the salary, where usually it is about 60%. So why do you think people stay with Dr. Shetty? Or why do they work for him?
I think it's the inspiration.
Well, inspiration doesn't give you, it doesn't cook your dinner. Inspiration doesn't cook dinner at home. So how do you think people manage?
It's also a lot about it, like if you look at it purely from a medical perspective, you get to examine a lot more number of patients.
But 22% is not medical only. It's comprises of administrative, paramedical, medical. What do you think would be the reason why people hang on with them? Or at least, it's a huge empire he has now.
Actually, a lot of hospitals are underutilized, and utilization levels at Narayana is very high. So, in normal hospitals, I think if a surgeon performs 2 or 3 surgeries a day, here they are actually 8 times the national average. So, they are performing 16 surgeries a day. So, that compensates for the costs.
But
so,
what about a manager like you? Why do you be interested to work with them for 22% of the salary?
No, it's actually the data point also states that they're not underpaying any of their staff. They're just utilizing the staff.
Other people are overpaying?
Overstaffing. Like it's the number of people.
See, I'll tell you one thing. The thing is the security. If you enter Dr. Shetty's institution, you know you're made for life. For that life, he has chosen for you, and you are actually aligning with him. That's very, very important. So the attrition rate in this institute is very, very low. So that's the primary reason why people hang around with them. Because the security which he provides, and as you mentioned, the skills of the doctors improves with so many operations. And even for people like administration, it's the same thing as well, because they're exposed to so many challenges in life. Because constantly he is actually challenging with his ideas. Okay? That's one question. Secondly, I would like to know what happens to this IIM diploma cardiology doctors which they come off. Anybody?
I think more of a, rather than specializing them in another depth vertical, for example in cardiology itself, it's not about specializing them and authorizing them to
conduct these surgeries, but it's more about the wrong diagnosis part. Like, as in when I mentioned the example that earlier a general practitioner would just see it as signs of acidity, it's more about generating that awareness in these general practitioners so that they don't diagnose it wrong. It's more about that, like, it's more about the decentralization part, wherein he's transferring knowledge to these far off locations as well, where earlier the diagnostic could have resulted to a completely different procedure being followed, but over here, just because of the awareness, they might just forward them to Narayana, saying that
what is happening is the diploma cardiology students are actually the MBBS doctors, which means their basic degree they have. They do not have any higher degrees, and they were never eligible to actually sit for the further exams in the Indian system abroad. So what he has done is he's empowered this weaker group of doctors. What I mean academically weaker group of doctors is empowered them to work and give them some degree from which they are working, which means actually the academic part of a medical profession and the skill part of the medical profession do not have a linear relationship. You could be not so good student or an average student, and you could be one of the best of the doctors. So that's what he believes in. So that's the reason he has empowered these boys and girls to actually work in the department of cardiology as a cardiologist, which no other institutions have ever done. Okay? So now back to you.
So yeah, he is a passionate, innovative entrepreneur with intense focus on partnerships and collaboration.
I think if you want to, summarize him, he was much ahead of time. He was at least 20 years ahead of what people thought at that point in time. That's how we summarize him. Okay.
Anything now is done? Okay, so they can go?
Yeah.
Anyway, good presentation. A lot of data.
You guys have done half of my job, because I was about to speak about Dr. Shetty. I met Dr. Shetty in 1989 and in Guy's Hospital, London. I was working in Brompton and he used to work in the Guy's Hospital, London. And the discussion about this particular project was way back in 1989 along the river of Thames. So that's how it all started. So, but I must say that his vision, which at that point of time in 89 when he talked to me, I thought was impossible, because I had just passed out and he had maybe around 6 or 7 years ahead of me. But we knew the Indian system, how it worked, and how things were in the medical system of India. So what he thought and what he told me, I thought this man is absolutely gone bonkers. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Because he's a very good surgeon, we knew that. But as a man with a vision, no, I didn't give him many marks at that point of time. I must confess that. But as we grew along, and I think as things evolved, yes, today where he is, you're absolutely on the point, and maybe ahead of what he even thought himself. So with that, I just want to start my presentation. So this is a leadership in NGO in healthcare, as you just elucidated in your slide before. So the definition of health, as per the World Health Organization, WHO definition, is about the physical, mental and social well-being. It's a holistic picture. Health is not about treatment of disease or infirmity. Health is about the holistic structure of how you think, how you live, and whether you're free from disease. So leaders in healthcare sectors, they have extraordinary challenges, as we all know, both at the personal and at the organizational level. We have limited resources to work with because we are not given everything to work with. We work in volatile political and economic circumstances, and we try our best to address the marginalized people of our society, because as we know, in India, 80% lives in rural areas and 20% lives in urban areas, and the medicos, 80% they serve the 20% of the urban areas and the 20% serve the 80% of the rural areas. So it's a reverse scenario completely. So the role of an NGO leader, obviously, it ensures that the organizations comply with all the laws, policies and expectations, and for the most part, to have a positive impact on the society and be agents for change. That's very, very important line, the agent for change. Well, if you don't change what you are, where we are, things will not improve or things will not move at all. So, in India, we spend about 1.2% of our GDP on public health care, which is abysmally low. It's one of the lowest in the world actually. So, and the overall expenditure on health is about 5% of the GDP, where actually the Asian average is 6.3. The number of physicians is 0.72 per thousand, where the WHO mentions it's about 1.2. One doctor per 1,674 citizens in India. The stipulation is 1:1,000, and we have 4.5 lakh doctors available in India, and we need another double the amount by 2020. So we need a change. How our health system functions. What would bring the change and who would bring the change? Obviously, in any developed countries, we will think about the government of the time to bring about the change. It is not the duty of the citizens or private citizens to bring about changes in things like education, things like health system. But in India, things are looked differently, and thank God for that. So this is, the power of a leader is not in the asset or bank balance, it is in the number of talented, passionate people who are willing to follow the leader to build an institution. So it is not about the salary, it's actually, have you heard about the Pied Piper of Hamelin? Yeah, the story? I don't know whether many people...
Pied Piper of Hamelin.
Yeah. So this man actually led all these rats to the river. So it's not a perfect analogy, but Dr. Shetty, when he speaks, he hypnotizes people with his power, with his passion, with his feeling, and with his truthfulness and honesty. That's what he is. So as we mentioned, it is an affordable quality healthcare for the masses. That's what his vision was. And as you rightly mentioned, 89, Dr. Shetty started the BM Builder. Then 2000, the Dr.Binayak Deb International Institute of Cardiac Sciences was promoted, and 2001, the NH started. I'm just going to go through the Dr. Shetty's slides a little quickly. He was Mother Teresa's physician for quite a period of time, and she had a true gift, being able to bring a smile to a lot of people, and we were all involved in those days. 80% of the healthcare expenses, which was not mentioned, was actually out-of-pocket expenses in India, and that's a tremendous amount of burden for the society. And every year in India, because of the out-of-pocket expenses, people sell their lands, people sell their belongings to actually get treated, and that creates about 50 million people to go below the poverty line every year because of the out-of-pocket expenses, and that's a very significant thing. The main challenge was to keep the quality of healthcare good with low cost, which you mentioned about Dr. Kiran Majumdar, who is the founder of Biocon. So they tied up with Biocon for the generic medicines. That was one of the ways, actually the cost of the medicine, so that is one of the important financial variable in a medical institution, the medicines. If the cost comes down and the quality is maintained, then actually you're ahead of time. So the medical treatment of the highest quality should be available even to those who could not afford it. That was a very, very important thing what Dr. Shetty believed. That people who could not afford, the money should not be the reason why people should not get treatment. That is very, very important. If you are not eligible for a surgery, that should be because of non-financial reasons. That you are not good enough, or your other problems, you have got other problems, you cannot get the surgery. But for financial reasons, that you will not have the surgery, that was not acceptable to him. So that was one of the very, very important areas which he thought was to be addressed. Therefore, the cost of the surgery had to come down. So as you mentioned in your presentation, that how it was done, subsidized patients with lesser paying capacity. And who paid for that? We had a private way. So it was kind of like a Robin Hood medicine. So people who could pay, they paid the money for people who could not pay. So even today, 40% of our patients paid for probably 60% of the surgeries. All the treatment is done in NH. So high volumes to lower cost. The more you increase the volumes, the cost comes down. Now in our hospitals, in particular in NH I'm talking about, we do not have much of the cabins of the rooms. It is more of partitions with screens, which means it's a ward where you can see all the patients, which means that your deployment of nurses, the number of nurses required to see a patient comes down. Because if a nurse sits in a cubicle here or a station here and all the patients are visible, you can do with 4 or 5 nurses compared to say if you had 50 rooms, you required at least 75 to 80 nurses. This is one of the ways he actually brought it down. So this was the wall modernization of the healthcare which you mentioned, and these are the ways the volumes were increased without compounding on the quality, without going down on the quality, because we devised plans whereby all the patients remained in a dormitory rather than single rooms. And the machines again were on a monthly rate. So NH hardly bought a machine from anybody, and we were very, very strong in that area. We always rented the machines. As a company, you park your machine, we'll use your consumables, and you take your machines once it's outdated, and it's your headache to make sure that the machines are actually parked in our hospital. And the maintenance of the machine is also done by the company itself, whether it's in the interest of the company that the machines work so that your consumables are used. Because the machine doesn't cost much. For the company, what happens is the consumables are the important thing which is used. This is about the Dr. International Institute, and I'm talking about my journey now. So my mentor, obviously Dr. Devi, and inspiration, the same Mother Teresa. So we had something in common when we started off this journey.
This is your picture with her, right?
Yes, yes. This is way back in 1995. So I was one of the founder members of the Dr. International Institute of Cardiac Sciences in 2000, and the other thing which did not come in a presentation was that we performed a lot of health camps, a lot of it, and we went to all the districts of Bengal and we performed health camps, free health camps, and that had cardiac camps, we had other multi-specialty camps, and we did it on a regular basis, and till date we do close to 300 health camps a year on a regular basis. So that is one of the ways we reach out to the people, because I believe that time has come when the medical facility has to go to the doorsteps of the people rather than the patients coming to the hospital on a regular basis. Let us go to them, find out if they require hospitalization, and let them come to us. In that way, two advantages. One is reduce the number of patients in the hospital, crowding them here unnecessarily, and secondly, I think it conveniences them because if we go to them. So, started the concept of health cards for underprivileged groups in the urban settings. We started this concept that we provide health cards to the underprivileged sections of the society. And who are they? This is one of the societies in this city. This is the Film Institute, because we have a very strong presence of Film Institute in the city, and these are the technicians who work. We have about 20,000 technicians in this city who work in the Film Institutes, and they have very low salary, no insurance covered, nothing of that sort. So we provide them health cards and we give a lot of privileges to them, and the insurance premium is paid by their association now. So it's a compact organization we have now, and these people who become patients, they actually come on a regular basis. So they have benefited. Now we have increased their cover to the spouses and the dependents. So this is one of the areas. And this is Eden Gardens of Calcutta. I think a lot of people who are Indians who would know that as a cricket fans. So they have groundsmen. This Cricket Association of Bengal is one of the richest cricketing body in India. But they had insurances for all their staff except the groundsmen, the people who actually made the game, people who actually make the ground. They did not have insurance coverage at all. So what we did, we went there and we gave health cards to them as well. We do regular health camps with them and gave health cards to them. This was about the urban underprivileged. So the next step obviously was focusing on the rural health and the rural reluctance. What is the reluctance? The National Rural Health Mission report says that over 700 million people live in so many villages, Indian villages, and 66% do not have access to critical medicines, and 31% of this population travels for more than 30 kilometers to seek health care, and that is abysmal. So what was the solution to it? So what I thought was the e-health, which Dr. Shetty had already propagated. But Dr. Shetty's e-health programs were limited to tier 2 and tier 3 cities of India. It had not gone as far as the rural landscape of India. So what I did was, I made sure that the foundation which we created, we went to the rural areas. And today in rural areas, in rural India, we do not have meal to eat, but we have the connectivity there. We have at least 3G connectivity in Indian rural areas. So e-health was not an issue there because we had good connectivity and we had the resources to do it, so we thought about it. And the spoke and the hub model, where actually the hub is the Dr.Binayak Deb and the spokes were the different villages of India. And we wanted different international agencies, NGOs and others to need to pool in resources and go hard on the awareness drive, keeping the socio-cultural issues in mind. Because we have to be very careful about talking to the rural people, because we have to be sensitive to their social issues and the cultural issues when we're talking to them. So the Rural Lib was the foundation which I created, which is called the Moynapur Rural Healthcare Foundation. Moynapur is the name of the village from where this whole foundation started. It's a village about 50 kilometers from Bankura, which is a district, and 137 kilometers from the state capital of Calcutta. So this is where two of our colleagues will be traveling, I think in 20th October, to do a camp. And as per the population census in 2011, 19,853 people live in Moynapur, which is not a big deal. But what happened was, when we started Moynapur, the whole of Bankura district could actually get access. And when we started there, the Bankura district had access, and today, 5 years down the line, we have access to at least 10 million people. And that's an amazing thing, because people come to know about it and people throng to these camps. So we have one medical college, one district hospital, 5 rural hospitals, 17 primary health centers. And these are some of the pictures. It's a very, very remote place. And this is, you can see the roads there, which do not have much access. And the nearest hospital is about 60 kilometers away. The primary health center is about 20 kilometers away. They did not have any ambulance facilities, no registered medical practitioners. And ours was the first heart camp which we did in 2014. So our objectives were two. One was the medical objective, second was the educational. Because without educating people, you cannot go very far. You cannot penetrate any society without making them aware or educating them. So two objectives were medical and educational. So the visions were facilitating the delivery of right to healthcare facilities for individuals of Moynapur and adjoining villages. We started with Moynapur, now the whole area has come into it. And holding the hands of the underprivileged and meritorious students and mentoring them, that was the educational vision which I had. So the objectives are reaching to the economically underprivileged rural patients, need to diagnose treatable medical problems in the children and adults, and the rural and urban connect, and follow up the treated patients. So these were the medical objectives which we had. So we had the patients in the rural areas. We could diagnose. That is very, very important, because we could only diagnose and we could not go any further. But as everybody knows, without diagnosing, you cannot treat. if you have a problem, we need to know what is it first. Then only we can go for the treatment. So instead of these people coming to us, to cities, hospitals which they could not afford, they could not come, and there were a lot of social barriers, cultural barriers, what we tried to do is reach to them. And that was one of the important objectives of MRHF. And the Rural-Urban Connect and the follow-up of treated patients through the e-health program, which I'm going to come later. So we had health camps, we had 24/7 communication lines open. So my mobile, my WhatsApp was actually open to anybody in the village, and they could communicate with me 24/7. So that is a very, very important thing in medical profession, that your mobile is not switched off when you require me. That is a very important thing. So we do about 8 multi-speciality camps per year, 150 patients on an average. The venue is a primary school there, and ECGs are done, bloods are done, X-rays are done, and consultations are done. And the word of mouth propagation of these camps are done, and also through some pamphlets and television channels, cable TV. So these are some of the pictures of the camps, and these are the venue, and on that side you see the health awareness talks taking place before the camp. And these are the members of the foundation, and they are mostly from that village, except a few who are from the hospital. And this is the general body meeting which you have at the end of the camp in the evening. So this is something which we have on a regular basis. And this school, by the way, where we do our camp, was established in 1868. So it's a very, very old school there, and the village is actually pretty old. And these are my colleagues from the NH who attends there on a regular basis, and we're seeing patients there. So the e-health concept in Moynapur was in collaboration with Narayana, and we had coordinators on both ends. I was on this end, and we had a coordinator on the other end, and who is a rural health practitioner who screen the patients and bring them there. We had a broadband connection, and we saw about 100 patients per month. So this is how it is operating. I am sitting in my chamber in Dr.Binayak Deb, and these are the people on the other end in Moynapur. It's about 137 kilometers, and do it on a regular basis. So we are connected with them. It's not just a one-off camp and we forget them. So it's a total connection with them. And then what happened was, when we gave an ECG machine to them, this is how the whole thing changed. And this was beyond my imagination as well. So what triggered this decision was that people used to have chest pain there. People have chest pain everywhere in the world. So what do you do when you have chest pain? Even in Calcutta when you have chest pain, first thing you do is actually call your GP who comes in, does the ECG. Maybe the ECG cannot be read by him because he's not qualified to read it. So he goes to a hospital and then the ECG is read there. And that takes about 2 to 3 hours, where you lose the golden time if you have a heart attack. So what happened was that I gave an ECG machine to them, and then this is the chest pain triage in Moynapur. The rural health practitioners is informed, the ECG is done in 20 minutes. Then the ECG is transmitted to me via WhatsApp. The diagnosis is made within 30 minutes. So that is the vital thing. And as I mentioned here, and this is a 24/7 service, and if somebody has got a heart attack, it's transported to the primary health center. And the time taken for the in-depth diagnosis nearly matches the triage time in Singapore, which is the best in the world, which takes 20 minutes. So in a village like Moynapur, the chest pain to the diagnosis takes 30 minutes, and that's something which is which as a model we can replicate everywhere. So what they have in the ECG machine, I have trained the locals. Who does the ECGs? I have trained the local boys actually, who have no degree, nothing. They're not even class 10 educated. They do the ECGs. And by trial and error, now they have perfected the art of doing ECGs, and about 7 or 8 of them actually know how to do ECGs. So they are the star of the village today. With any chest pain, they run with the ECG machine, do the ECG, immediately take a snap, send it to me through WhatsApp, and immediately I talk to the rural health practitioner, and immediately some action is taken. So about 876 plus ECGs were done in the last 3 years, 75 heart attacks were transferred to primary health centers, and 5 died on the way to the hospital. Now you might think only 75, but the important thing is that 801 patients could sleep with certainty that they did not have a heart problem. That is the most important thing. When you have chest pain, what is more important is diagnosis of the problem rather than how you treat it. And about 70 to 80% of the chest pains actually is not a heart problem. So to negate something, to say that you do not have a heart problem is as important as treating somebody with a heart attack. So the problem, the rural-urban gap is about 26% of doctors, as I mentioned, serve 72% of the population, and the manpower is inadequate. So this was one of the ways how we could improve on delivering the healthcare there. So the possible solution was that homegrown products will hopefully serve their own. Why do people from the cities, they don't want to go to the villages? Because of inadequate facilities there, school problems. There are hundreds of reasons why people don't go from the cities to the village to serve as doctors. So my thought is that if you could pick up doctors from their own community, then there's a chance that, and there's a possibility, there's no guarantee, there's a possibility that those boys and girls will actually go back and serve them. So I thought to catch them young, we have to catch them at school. And medics and paramedics are equally important. It's not about doctors, it's about health professionals who are required to serve the community. Doctor is only a part. You have nurses, you have technicians, you have physiotherapists, you have ECG technicians, you have lab technicians, and whatnot. So the whole entire spectrum is actually required when you are treating somebody. So we have a scholarship program in place in this foundation. And every year, we give a one-off scholarship to the best student of the 16 adjoining villages school. So that is one program which we have started. And most importantly, we have Udaya Pathe. Udaya Pathe is actually one of the programs which is Dr. Devi's brainchild, where young, meritorious, underprivileged students actually are given scholarships from 2 years if they are from class 10 to class 12, and for 5 years if they have been eligible to study medicine. And once they finish their courses, they are guaranteed a job in our hospital. So with this in mind, we have started the program, and we have enrolled quite a few number of students from the village scenarios, because I prefer that the rural students get preference over the city students, because I want that these scholarship programs should benefit the rural people more than the city people. So there's Dr. Shah.
It's not staying.
That's it amongst all the students, and we had this on the 6th of October actually. This program. Every year we have this program, and we select out of a huge pool of students who apply, and this is a very, very difficult time when we do the selection, because all seems to be eligible, because they come from really, really underprivileged background. So these are the students, these are the people who have already become doctors from those programs, and these are the students, she's a doctor, these are doctors, and these are the students who are actually about to become doctors. So this is a very successful program which is running for the last 13 years, and Moynapur Rural Healthcare Foundation has joined hands with them for the last 4 years. So these are some of the articles which is published in the media for the media presence. These are the television programs which I do, where I mentioned about the Moynapur Rural Healthcare Foundation. So I got some space in the television to talk about this model. And these are our journals which we have published every year. 2015, 16, 17, 18. So these are the journals where I encourage the villages to give their articles so that they can read something. So it's giving dignity to them, that's very, very important. We can't give a lot of things to them, but what we can give through these journals is actually that they are writing in a proper journal which is going to so many people. So that they feel very good about it, very proud about it. This is our website which you have. You can note it down, and everything is given on that website, www.mrhf.in. And it is a pretty comprehensive website, but I would encourage you, if you have any suggestions, there's a blog there which you can write in that blog and tell us how to improve the website. And these are some of the people we have who support this program. This man, I think a lot of people know. Saurabh Ganguly is one of our icons of Bengal, and the rest are famous writers. This gentleman is actually head of the department of cardiology in Singapore, and I used to work with him. So he is one of the supporters of this model. So the structure and functionality of this MRHF is chief patron, board of trustees, executive body members, general body members, invited members, local volunteers, and it's autonomous, non-government, health, educational and sports-based activity, health camps, e-health and scholarship programs, self-funded. We have donations from the individuals and the CSR funding from the multinational companies who help us with ECGs, bloods, X-rays and whatnot. And we link with Narayana Health, with manpower to run the health camps and the Udayapathe program. We have some little programs in the government sector where children under the age of 18, they are actually given free treatment and referred to government secondary and tertiary care programs. New add-ons have been, we have moved on from Moynapur to different locations in West Bengal and also in the neighboring state. And we have seen more than 1,500 patients last year. So what was MRHF before was single specialty, single location. Now it moved to multi-speciality, multiple locations, e-health, 24/7 chest pain triad and scholarship program. The limitations was that we have only diagnostic capability. We did not have the fund to actually send these patients for treatment. We used to scout front, we used to get people into the government hospitals, but there also there are some limitations in terms of treatment, in terms of the fundings. And this is only a model, this is not something which is replicated elsewhere. So this is a limitation of this foundation. So IIM-C actually is a program which is started as we speak today in this country. And this is the world's largest health insurance scheme which has been started. It was started on 23rd, day before yesterday, and today it is launched all over India. And what it does is that it gives a 5 lakhs, it is 0.5 billion rupees, comprehensive family healthcare coverage for 500 million underprivileged population in the rural India. And it covers both the secondary and the tertiary care treatment. So this is a huge thing that's come, and as we speak today, it has been implemented today itself. So for me, I think a complete healthcare solution has emerged today. And what I feel that in time to come, people like us, NGOs like us, if they can make that effort, extra effort to diagnose people, because today we have the ability to treat people. The IIM scheme, which has been started today, will give you the money, will give you the resources, but will not take you to the doorsteps of the people. If NGOs like MRHF, similar NGOs, people like us can think about going to the rural people and diagnosing the problem, we have the ability today, from today, to actually treat these patients. So that is what this foundation is all about. Thank you.
So questions. This is the real time, to ask, because you have presented, then the brief interview, he has presented. What about some questions on the president? I'm sure you have some. Yes.
Yeah, how did you choose Moynapur for the, do you have some personal relation to this place? Because India is full of rural areas, and why did you choose this place?
This is the millionth time somebody is asking this question. Why Moynapur? So I think I knew some patients who had come from there, and I was invited to attend a patient there. Liked the place very much, and that's how it all started. There's no particular reason why I chose that place. I don't come from that place.
You talked about your mentor. What did you learn from him?
From
him?
What did you learn from Dr. Shetty?
Oh, what I'm doing, that's what I learned. I mean, that nothing is beyond what you can think. You know, we are all limited by our imaginations. That's all we are. If you think what you want to dream, what you want to think, you can actually achieve it. That's what I learned. As I told you in '89 when you spoke to me, I thought the Thames River flowing is actually a much better scenario than what he's talking to me. But today, when I stand in 2018, I find exactly the words, what he had told, what he had dreamt. We have done that and beyond it. So I think anything is possible. That's what I have learned from him.
So how did you find the money to buy all those instruments?
Money to buy?
We do not have much in instruments because I have donated the ECG machine from my own fund. The rest of the blood tests and the ECGs which are done and the other x-rays which are done are funded by the CSR activity of the multinational drug companies.
So it's not a donation.
Donations, some people are donating, but that is something which is not a very regular thing at all.
With the objective of keeping low-cost treatments, how do you maintain or ensure quality? Like, are there any instances where you felt that the treatment or the diagnosis would have been better had more funds being there? Or
you see, I get your point. Quantity will kind of subserve quality, that's what you're trying to say, but it's not necessarily true. What has happened before we came to this scenario, I think in pre-2000 I would say, that the medical industry was overpriced. And overpriced by 300, 400, 500%. I'll tell you an example. The manufacturing cost of a coronary stent, the stent put in angioplasty, is $5. $5 at manufacturing cost. When it comes to the consumer, it goes up to $1,500. So we are at a point where we know that because I have been at least involved in the developing of those stents. So when we bargain with these manufacturing companies, I know exactly what is what. So I buy the stents from them, say for $20, $25. I don't give them $1,500. So they can go to any other hospital to buy that, get that price. But for my hospital, our organization, we buy it for $20, $25. So that's how the price is low without compromising quality at all. So, and that is actually going to all areas of medicine completely. Because as I say, the generic drugs, they cost you 80% less than a trade drug. So this is how things are happening. But I must say that cost of the any drug or any devices is high because of the research and development programs they have. So they have a patent, they have other areas.
Question there.
Could this system be adopted not only by the developing countries but also by the richest countries? Because also in richer countries we have poorest regions, and I don't know if it's possible in your opinion.
Yeah, but I think the developed countries, everybody is covered by health insurance schemes, as far as I know. Because our penetration of health insurance scheme is less than 10%. But in other, till today, now it will be more than 70-80% because of this new scheme. But then I think in developed countries, everybody is covered under medical insurance. The only problem in the developed countries is that you are entitled to only go to a particular hospital and the waiting time is extremely large there. Where if you are going for, say, a hip replacement, a joint replacement, it will take you 1 year, 1.5 years waiting time. But if you come to a private hospital, you can get it done tomorrow. So that's a difference. So I think, though everybody is covered in developed countries, they do not have any control over the period of time, the waiting time which is required for a particular problem.
Now that Ayushman Bharat scheme is launched, it will be easier for you to replicate Moynapur in other remote places of the country?
Yeah, because the reason is so far I was stuck when people asked that what happens after the diagnosis. What good is it if you tell somebody you have a problem but you can't cure it or you can't solve it? But from now on, I can say very confidently because Ayushman Bharat is meant for exactly the group of people whom I am actually dealing with right now. So Ayushman Bharat is covering 40 crores of rural India and 10 crores of urban poor. So, and there all my patients who I see in the camps are all eligible for Ayushman Bharat scheme.
So, for your health awareness programs or camps that you carry out for the rural and the village and the urban village, do you train your medical staff differently? Like, if you have to tackle the issues of health awareness in rural India, do you have to train the speakers, whoever is giving out those, whoever is conducting those camps? Is there a need to train them differently?
I do it myself. So yeah, I'm there all the time, guiding these boys and girls, and they get very good actually at the end of it. And there were a lot of reluctance for people to go for the first time. After they go there, they see the amount of affection, the reception they get. Because people have never seen a city doctor in those villages. So when they see a city doctor, they are very privileged themselves. And they pass on that privilege, feeling of privilege to these doctors. So they love the place. So once I take them, the first step is a very difficult one. But once they go there, they feel very good about it. And as they grow there, with every camp, they become better and better. And it's like a family relationship builds with them.
So you now said that there's the healthcare just started in India, but what is the reason that India only spent like 1% of their GDP? Like, is there a historical reason for that, or like why?
They have to spend 3% on the military equipment. We have very friendly neighbors around.
But there's still some percentage left, right?
Yeah, I think with this Ayushman Bharat scheme which has come from 1.2%, the GDP spending is going to 3%. So that's doubling now. And I think years with this scheme, if it's successful, it will go as high as 5%. So that's pretty good from 1%. So that will be about 5 times more in say maybe 5 to 6 or 7 years time.
No other questions? But can I join the conversation with your permission? Please don't go away. I go back to this last slide of your presentation, where you were struggling to talk about the good doctor who had come years from the Institute of Mother and Child, Dr. Sujit. Brahmachari, it was not Brahmachari, it's Brahmachari, anyway, forget that. So, and I remember you asking Dr. Sujit how he plans to scale up. And I think he didn't give you a full answer, if you remember. Probably the thing that you notice in today's presentation is there is an answer. The answer lies in 3 parts, if you will. One part of the answer is, which Dr. Deb is talking about, Ayushman Bharat. First time, 70 years after India's independence, that the government of India has launched a scheme which will actually take healthcare potentially to people who need it. Second part of the story is organizations, NGOs like MRHF, If you have Ayushman Bharat, you don't have good, sincere implementing agencies, people use it just to milk the government and take the money, it won't work. So obviously, at the best, this is a case for government-NGO cooperation. And the NGO doesn't have to engage with the government doesn't have to engage with the NGO, the person who's suffering can avail of the health insurance. So, but you need sincere NGOs. You need people with the drive, the passion, the charisma, the belief, the conviction that Dr. Deb carries. And the third part I would say is perhaps Narayan Hrudayalaya. Because it's Narayan Hrudayalaya which over the past 5 years has been supporting this fledgling foundation and making it grow. Already without Ayushman Bharat, you will see that Dr. Deb has expanded to many other locations, alright, and the number of health camps have increased, the frequency of interventions has increased, alright, and so that's very important. What he was sharing, maybe you'd like to share it with them now, that as you were saying, and let me repeat that NH's presence in India is in tier 2, tier 3 cities and towns. This intervention in Bankura district, in a remote village called Moynapur, is one of its kind,
Absolutely.
Even for NH. And that is why Dr. Shetty comes in, that's where he comes in. He sees the potential. So maybe the river Thames is not being replicated, but right now here in this remote village, on those muddy, dusty, difficult roads, there is another vision being sown. A vision that can be scaled up. So potentially MRHF is a starter for NH, but with the success story of NH for the last 2 decades, it's not difficult to imagine that Dr. Shetty would want to recreate and scale up on the model of MRHF. So even with that it won't be enough. But still, it's already a very good, happy beginning with a promise. So it's great if you see it from that point of view, with the backing of an organization like Narayan Hrudayalaya, not the organization, the vision of its founder and leader, with the passion that Dr. Deb brings to it, with the kind of possibilities that this new scheme has unleashed, it's a win-win-win for India, for people who need healthcare. For the first time, we can actually say that there is an answer. But that answer will remain unfulfilled if this is a scheme only in the hands of government. People have to be sensitized, people have to come to know, there have to be many MRHFs out there, and there has to be even more Dr. Devi Prasad Shetty's. It's not possible for that one man to bring healthcare to all of India. But potentially, this is the first time we have an answer.
May I interject? I was expecting any for you to make a question to me actually, that how come the management in NH actually does not define. I know Dr. Shetty is behind this, but still we have very strong managers who might question or do question me about the sustainability of this program, because we take a lot of help from NH in terms of camps and resources. So did anybody think about it? Why not? Because passion is something, but that cannot drive an organization. It has to be viable as well. Why NH is going to spend so much of the resources on one rural foundation? Isn't it a valid question?
Some people are nodding, so maybe you can give the answer.
Yeah, the answer is today, when I started off, we have about how many? 15, 20, 18 districts in West Bengal. Bankura district, where I do the camp, was 13th on the list in terms of revenue generated for NH. Because we have about 80% patients coming from districts of West Bengal to NH Calcutta, Rabindranath Tagore. For the last 3 years, we are first on the list, Bankura, in terms of revenue generated. And by 37% So we are 37% ahead. So it's good business as well.
So you see, it's a win-win-win all the way, where passion, emotion, good revenues, happy feeling of doctors, warm reception of villagers, everything can combine into one happy melting pot. I think maybe you could share a little bit about the Shastra Mela that you are going to.
Yeah, I think two of you are.
Of course, they will go over to give an insight.
And John, I think. Did you? Jonas.
No, I think he's not here.
Okay. So,
is that?
Oh, very good. You're very shy. So, you two are going to come with us. So, this is, for the first time we are doing is 7 specialties will be coming there. We have cardiology, cardiac surgery, chest medicine, diabetes, neurosurgery, orthopedics. All of them are going to pool in with all our doctors' resources. And for the first time in the rural Bengal, we're going to do a kind of a combination of these specialties coming into one camp. This is going to be pretty big. So this is the first endeavor we're trying to do, and I welcome both of you to join us.
So, I mean, it's what started just with the heart camp 5 years ago is now expanded even in Moynapur to seven specialities. So it's a very happy and a good story, you know. So it's a happy and with the vision. I mean, as we speak today, this is something we've always. I mean, last few weeks I've shared with you my pathos, my unhappiness. And when we write about NGOs, we see NGOs struggling. Where is the wherewithal? As he said, where is the answer? So today there is an answer. For the first time, there is an answer. So that is where I think the whole thing lies, the purpose of forming an NGO lies. Can we quickly do the presentation, sir? I'll just take a few minutes. Maybe you can contribute. But just to sum up on some key aspects of this. Please do contribute, sir, and all of you as well. Just to summarize some of our learning, it's not that what we are going to say is anything new. This goes a little bit beyond the health sector. Dr. Deb. Is this the first slide? Yeah. Yes. So what we talk about now is a new kind of leader. What are those facets of that leader? Compelling personal histories. So Dr. Deb has shared those conversations of beside the tapes. The interactions with Mother Teresa. You would see in some of his slides how, and in the accounts of Dr. Shetty, how Mother Teresa inspired him. But he already had a dream. So there's a compelling personal history behind the whole thing. There's a distinctive profile of belief. Dr. Shetty could have said, like many other doctors, it's not in my power to change it. I can agitate, I can shout from the rooftop, the government is not doing, what can I do? Instead, he's gone out and made this his life's mission. Impressive accomplishments in the face of odds. Narayan Rudaya is a case in point. So what do? One is reframing challenges, how you look at the same challenges differently. Adhering to a sense of obligation. How do you give back? That's perhaps how these doctors do it when they go to the camps. And discerning measures of success. So, see this. Some have the ability to see that something positive, such as a commitment to a cause or to working with an underserved population, can emerge from a painful and or tragic situation. So, now this is very important. Although individuals may say they have no choice but to continue, they of course choose to do so. Because of their deep conviction, these individuals are willing to respond to and act on their obligations. So this is the different breed of doctors who are not just out there to make money and for themselves and for their families, but to actually believe in a nation-building mission. You know, like Dr. Deb, Dr. Shetty could have stayed back in the places where they studied, where they worked. He started his career in Ireland. The point that he came back and he continues to serve and goes to the remotest village is out of this sense of obligation. Sorry. we just jump. Yeah. Yes. So basically, these are 4 kinds of NGO leaders: paternalistic, like father figures or elder brother figures. Perhaps there is a little bit of that in Dr. Shetty also. Activist, people who lobby. Dr. Shetty is a great lobbyist. He actually petitions the state government, the federal government. In England, he works with the National Health Service. So in that way, he kind of channelizes government policies in a way that favors the needs of the people he wants to serve. So that is activism, that is lobbying. So in that sense, managerialist. We saw a little bit of that in this guy, what's his name? Jaju. So, but here also we see it, the way he's managed costs, the way he's managed to communicate. So the slide that you saw, managerial skills and communication, cost optimization, the whole thing, to make a model out of it without depending either on private donors or on the government. So management of resources, of human beings, the way Dr. Deb talked about how to develop a second rank of doctors who can really serve. That whole program with IGNU that he was talking about. All that is here. Without that, a lot of these scaling up interventions won't happen. And last but not least, it's catalytic. MRHF is not exactly NH. It's probably the next cycle beyond NH. But that's already been catalyzed by NH. So that is also in a way a kind of fallout of what Dr. Shetty has done. So this is a little bit of the description of these people. So you can see it. So here we talk about this, very important, because without this it won't work. Instrumental ability to manage organizations, establish reliable systems and appropriate structures, and manage a diverse workforce with established roles and responsibilities. So this is where probably Narayan Rudala is a great success. There may be other NGOs with a lot of passion, a lot of dedication, commitment, but unless you have this, unless you can harness your resources effectively and optimally, you won't get to this kind of thing. So this is the going from the furthest. This is what Dr. Deb was talking about, the wider world view. He said that at that point in time, he didn't know that Dr. Shetty was capable of this. But this is exactly what it is. A longer term strategic view, balancing tough decisions about strategic priorities with organizational values and identity. So he was telling you how he pushes his managers so often, much against their wishes, to do what is considered impossible. Yeah? So their success as change agents depends on their ability to delegate work to talented colleagues. Remember that slide, that a man is as powerful as the team he heads. He was quoting Dr. Shetty on this slide. So freeing time to engage actively with external stakeholders and partners. Look at the number of health camps, look at the lobbying interventions, look at all the television interventions that Dr. Deb is doing. You saw the magazine that is being done by the villages. All of that is part of this. Building coalitions and strategic alliances. It's not easy to work with villagers who have never been exposed and who are suspicious of city doctors. That whole bit which I think he covered fleetingly, I think maybe Dr. Deb, in conclusion, maybe you can talk about how different it is to work in the Indian village. Maybe just a quick word, we don't have time, just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think the important thing is actually to engage with them. That is very, very important. Because as Professor Mittal has mentioned, just going there with a stethoscope in your hand, people are very suspicious. You know, they think that some doctors have come here to take these patients to the city hospitals and get money out of them. So that suspicion had to be broken. So that thing was broken in many ways. I myself play cricket and I am a sports lover. So what I have done is I have actually engaged these children of the villages. We do play cricket there, we play football there when we go there actually. They have huge grounds, so there's no issue. And they are absolutely delighted when a doctor actually is playing with them. So engagement with the children is important, with the youth is important. That I empowered these boys and girls to do ECGs, to train them to do ECGs. They are actually starved in these places. So, and then the villagers attend elderly age group. They are doing their own magazines. So this is how actually we need to engage them in a social way. And I think that is complete health package we should give. It is not only the treatment of the disease, it's actually the mental and the social thing which gives you a holistic health. And that's how I believe MRHA actually is dealing with the villages.
Thank you, sir. So, this is kind of summarizes what you said. Leaders of good NGOs all exhibit this. That was a common feature on your last slide. But they don't have oversized egos. Alright? They know they must share power in order to be stronger forces for good. There is no way you can kind of compete with each other like in a corporation. Then you lose the purpose. They distribute leadership within their organizations and throughout their external non-profit networks. See how much in a distant way Dr. Shetty has kind of empowered and encouraged Dr. Deb. Same within the organization. Empowering others to lead. Leaders of high-impact non-profits cultivate a strong second-in-command, build enduring executive teams with long tenure, and develop large and powerful boards. In fact, Dr. Deb also mentioned, you might have heard that there is, every time he goes, there is a meeting at the end of the day of the foundation. The foundation has a significant population of the village people. So they feel it's their thing. It's not in their eyes. He is visiting, he is the patron. But he may be the motive force, but it is their thing. They own it. So if it goes all India through NH from Moynapur, it still was patented, built and dreamt and born in Moynapur. So that ownership is created there among the villagers. So I think with Ayushman Bharat being launched, this is the question. It's another new journey that just started effectively day before yesterday when the program was launched with